Merry Christmas, everybody, or Merry Humus, as we have been coining it here on WhoCulture. I've eventually managed to say it without thinking about the dip, so that's an achievement. Woohoo, just in time for Christmas. Of course, we were all treated to Joy to the World, and I don't know about you lot, but I missed not having a Doctor Who Christmas special, so it really was a joy to have yet another Christmas special. Not only a Christmas special, a Stephen Moffat Christmas special. If you're new to the ups and downs, very, very simple. Gonna go through the episode, give you my ups for the episode and my downs for the episode. We also have Artron ups, which is a super duper up, and we also have Deadlock downs, which are the super duper downs. There might be some, there might not, but keep your eyes peeled and we'll find out together. Let's get into it.
Ham and cheese toasty and a pumpkin latte.
So we open the episode at the Queen's Hotel in Manchester in 1940. Just a quick note here, I don't know about any of you, but if there's an air raid going on, I don't know why you'd think, I know what I'll do, I'll go and stand out on the balcony and just watch what's happening. Stand outside where the bombs are dropping and watch what's happening. Come inside, Basil, what are you doing? Oh, dearie me. Basically, the opening of this episode is nothing new to us. Everything we have seen up until the titles of this are clips that we'd already seen for promos in trailers. So we had the Doctor bursting into various rooms in different points in history with the pumpkin latte and the ham and cheese toasty. It was a lovely scene. It's a great little upbeat, get you excited for what's happening. But as I say, it's nothing really new that we hadn't seen before in the promos and the trailers. It's nice to have the cold open. There have been a few episodes previously where we didn't have the cold open. I like a cold open. I think that's part of what a Doctor Who episode is. Something happens, then we smash in with those titles. So that was nice. But obviously after the title sequence is when things really start to pick up and we start to find out a little bit more about these hotel rooms. So we have the Time Hotel, where I come with my first up of the episode. I love the concept of this Time Hotel. It's so clever. I wish I could get inside Stephen Moffat's head, because how does he come up with these ideas? I really love the concept. Obviously we learn as well that the Time Hotel is in the future. Why the hell we did not figure that out when we did the breakdown of the trailer, I have no idea. We were like, oh, maybe the Time Hotel goes into the future as well. Rather than just thinking, maybe the Time Hotel is in the future and goes into history. I don't know why we didn't think of that. Bad us. Naughty. We should have spotted that. Anyway, our bad. What I really like about this hotel is the concept of you can only go in those hotel rooms if it's not occupied in that time period. I just love that thing. So obviously when the Doctor's bursting through at the beginning, they're people, not guests of the Time Hotel. They're just ordinary people staying at that hotel in that time period, and the Doctor shouldn't have burst through that. And we get a little bit more of an explanation for that, a bit more idea of what that means. It's a really clever concept on time travel as well. You know, obviously with the TARDIS, you can travel in time so much, but it gets a bit samey because that's always the mode of transport to travel through time, unless you have a vortex manipulator. So I liked this play on time travel. It's very Moffat-y. I really liked it. I also really liked the design of the hotel. The attention to detail of all the different doors to the different places. You know, had the tent zip, you had the Pisa, the Leaning Tower of Pisa door, all these different doors. I think the attention to detail in the set design was really, really good. And that extends also to the costumes of all of the people wandering around the corridors, who it took me a while to realise weren't people from that time period who were just wandering around the halls in the future. They were people that had obviously dressed for the occasion of the room they were going to go into. That took me longer than it should to realise. I was like, why are these people dressed in like Renaissance clothes, wandering around, not wondering why there's cavemen opposite them? Then it dawned on me, these people are guests at the hotel and they're dressed like that because they're in costumes. Smart Ellie. So we're in the lobby of the Time Hotel, and something I will note that I really, really liked to see, and I feel like we haven't had much of, especially in season 1, was that good old TARDIS materialising into the shot. I feel like season 1 and the 60th as well kind of favoured the TARDIS kind of crash landing into places, which is not how the TARDIS lands. Obviously there were kind of explanations for that with the whole Sutekh thing, and I know, but for old time's sake, for what Doctor Who is, I love to see the TARDIS fading into shot. So I'm really glad that we've gone back to that way of seeing the TARDIS appear on a scene. And then the Doctor meets Trev. Taken up Trev. I really love the character of Trev. You know, at one point when we were looking at the trailers, we thought he was going to be a villain, and I'm really glad that that didn't turn out to be the case. He's a really lovable character. He brings the humour, but he also brings the humanity, and you just want to give him a hug. It genuinely was really upsetting when he realised that he'd let the Doctor down, and when he was on the chair and went and let him down, and justice for Trev, because he was really, really sweet, and I just found him very funny. I really like that character, and I'm glad he didn't turn out to be bad. I really like, before we get to Joy's room, the kind of circling back to what we saw at the beginning, now that we have the context of why the Doctor was bursting into all of these rooms with the cheese toastie and the pumpkin latte. I really like it when that happens, when we kind of see things out of order, then circle back to learn the context of what's happening here. And we see this again later on, when we have the two versions of the Doctor in Joy's room, seeing that scene from both perspectives as well. So it's not the case of we just see it from one perspective and then we kind of skip past it when we get to the end of that loop, or when we complete that loop. I like that we saw both perspectives of that. And a shout out must go to the director, Alex Pillay, for that moment, because the way it was shot from the different perspectives of each Doctor in each moment, I think worked really, really well. So that was really a lovely moment. So as I say, we now have the moment where the Doctor meets Joy. Obviously, we've met Joy already. We've seen her arrive at the Sandringham Hotel. But this is the moment that the Doctor bursts into the room, sees the Silurian holding the briefcase. We've got Anita there in the background, kind of lurking in the bathroom, and Joy going, "What is going on here? Somebody please explain." But it does, I'm afraid, bring me to my first down of this episode. I really wanted more from Ncuti and Nicola Coughlan in this episode. I had really high hopes for the chemistry we were going to see between these actors, and that's not to say that it wasn't there, but I wanted to see more of it. You know, I feel like Nicola's character Joy actually was missing from quite a big chunk of the episode, and a big flaw here is that you did introduce her, and then for about 20 minutes of the episode, she wasn't actually there. And then by the time we do get back to her, we've had this whole situation with Anita, which I will get back to in a second. And by the time we circle back to Joy, you've kind of not got that connection to the character anymore. You've seen this whole thing develop with Anita, and so you've kind of forgotten about the groundwork that was laid beforehand, and Joy doesn't seem as relevant anymore. And what we did see of Joy was really, really good, so it was just slightly disappointing that we didn't get more of her. And then a lot of the time she was actually, you know, a bit possessed by the starseed, and so that kind of bubbly personality that you come to expect from Nicola Coughlan was there for a few scenes, but then for a lot of it she was kind of in this possessed zombie kind of mode, and so that kind of personality was taken away again. So what we did get of her was really, really wonderful. I just was hoping for a bit more from her. I think it also didn't help that because we didn't have a lot of her in the episode, and then a lot of what we did have of her in the episode we'd already seen in promotional content. Majority of Joy's scenes were what we were shown in trailers. All of the opening scene, the scene with the dinosaur, there actually were only a couple of scenes that we hadn't already watched with Joy in them, and so we went in hoping for so much more from her, and actually a lot of what we got we had already seen. Please don't take this as me criticising Nicola Coughlan's performance though, because I think she was actually brilliant. I really enjoyed the character of Joy. I enjoyed Joy. But because I enjoyed the character, I was just slightly disappointed that there wasn't more of her. The other thing that happens in this scene is we have the Silurian who is relinquished from holding the briefcase. It's now on Joy's arm, and then the Silurian is going to disintegrate. And we do have a moment where the Doctor is sitting over the Silurian as he dies, and we do have a tear coming from the Doctor's face. What I will say is, obviously there's been a lot of criticism for season 1 with the amount of emotion we see coming from this Doctor. And while I absolutely do think that it does need to be toned down, and there was too much of it in season 1, because too much of it relinquishes some of the power that it has, I do think it was toned down in this episode, and although there were still tears, it definitely felt toned down compared to what we'd seen in season 1. So perhaps maybe feedback was taken, but it definitely seems like the emotional outbursts that we've come to expect from this Doctor from season 1 were reduced a lot in this episode. And I didn't mind the few tears that we did have in this episode because they seemed to fit the occasion. So then we come to my art run-up for this episode. So let me just, yep. That should do it. My arch run-up for this episode is the year where the Doctor is closing the loop and is stuck on Earth. The chemistry between Ncuti Gatwa and Steph de in this sequence is so strong. In fact, arguably I'd say the chemistry between these two actors and these two characters is stronger than that of the Doctor and Joy and Ncuti and Nicola. Again, part of that being because we didn't really get to see much of those two characters interacting, but actually when you think about it, you didn't have much of these two characters interacting either. It was only for this sequence of the episode, and yet it was so gripping, so powerful, emotional at times. I really enjoyed this sequence. I really like it when we see the Doctor having, forced to live a normal life. And I think Ncuti Gatwa did a really, really good job in this sequence as well, of kind of finding that balance of trying to fit in, but also getting things a little bit wrong every now and then, taking things a little bit far, or just not understanding entirely what humanity is. He spends a lot of time with humans, but there are things that he just can't quite grasp in the life of humans. I think of the entire episode, this sequence was probably the most unexpected as well. In terms of what we'd seen of the episode, I was under the impression that Steph de Worley's character was only going to be in that opening scene and we weren't going to see her after we'd left Joy's room. And it was a real pleasant surprise to have her in actually a far bigger role than we were expecting. And I think she's a highlight, actually, of this episode. She did a really, really good job. Well, the pair of them did. They just worked off of each other so well. I really, really like that all that Doctor Who memorabilia is somehow now canon in this kind of weird meta way. And this kind of acknowledgement of, I just found them all online. There seems to be a lot of them. Fun fact, at least 3 of the TARDIS things that I saw on the shelf in the Doctor's room I own. At least 3. Keep an eye out. When we do the Easter eggs, I'll get them all out. Or maybe the discussion. I'll have them all out and you'll be able to see, and I'll count how many of those items of memorabilia I actually do own in my collection. And also, I cannot move past this section without just pointing out that I love to see the 15th Doctor dressed as Bob the Builder. Maybe that should have been my arch run-up. Well, this whole point is my arch run-up, but especially because the Doctor is dressed like Bob the Builder. Bob the Builder is my childhood. Doctor Who and Bob the Builder. My childhood. But then, of course, that year does end, the loop closes, and the Doctor then returns to the Time Hotel, to the Starseed situation. And then we have that mean Doctor moment that we had teased by Stephen Moffat in SFX magazine. I was really intrigued by what this was going to be. And up until this point, I was trying to figure out, at what point is the Doctor going to start being mean? Well, my question was answered in this next sequence. So this sequence, of course, gets an up as well. And this whole moment of the Doctor being mean to Joy to try and free her from the hold of the Starseed. It's a dimension we haven't really seen from this incarnation of the Doctor yet. He's been very upbeat and bubbly. We have had emotional outbursts in terms of tears and anger. But in terms of a kind of darker side, a little bit more of a manipulative side, this was a really, really good moment for Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor. I think because this episode is so light and breezy as well, it needs to have at least some moment that's a bit darker. Otherwise, people kind of lose interest. And I really feel like this is where we're getting to see the Doctor. You know, we don't have any of those moments like we've seen previously in season 1, you know, the freezing up after the reveal of Sutek. We don't have any of the overdone crying here. It's just the right amount, really, of kind of alien naivety and silliness, but also there's this wit and this charm and a little bit of self-loathing and anger in there as well. And it just feels like this episode really started to show 15 as the Doctor. I think Ncuti Gatwa gave a really great performance in this episode, and Stephen Moffat again just gets it in terms of developing a story that shows a real 3-dimensional character. And of course we do learn with the Doctor angering Joy, upsetting Joy to break her free of the Starseed. We learn a bit more about her backstory and the situation with her mum. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but does anyone else find it odd when COVID is in TV shows as like a plot point now, especially when it's a non-fiction television program. And COVID is referred to as this kind of historical event, which of course it will always be. It will go down in history. People will be learning about this in schools in years to come. But I don't know about anyone else, but for me, it just feels too recent, a little bit too close to home, that when I start seeing it on television in a fictional world, it feels weird. And obviously, having said that, I can imagine, particularly for those who did suffer in a similar way to Joy during COVID, who were in similar situations, who lost loved ones and weren't able to be with them, I absolutely can see how this moment, this storyline, this whole story surrounding Joy and her mum will be very, very relatable, very touching, very upsetting, and heartwarming all at the same time for those who really were affected firsthand by this situation. So I think it was a bold move. For myself, I was very fortunate that that wasn't a situation that I found myself in, but I really do feel like this is going to be, it's that typical Christmas feel, where you want it to be a happy and joyful experience, but also it's not really a Christmas thing without something pulling at the old heartstrings. And I think Joy's emotional outburst, when the doctor does free her from the starseed, and that whole situation, I think, was very, very powerful. I also feel like the whole concept of the starseed basically being microwaved in the Time Hotel, just so clever. I don't know why, I just feel like it's the perfect analogy for the situation, and yet it just feels weird to hear the doctor say it's been microwaved. But I think, again, it's just Moffat at his finest. His time travel mind is something else. Typical Moffat, very clever, yes. So then we obviously then have this kind of great doctor moment with 15 running through the various hotel rooms. He's collecting rope. He's being a general hero, running through the Orient Express, swinging that rope around and lobbing it off the side. You've got Murray Gold's theme for 15 blaring as well, obligatory up for Murray Gold. You knew it was coming, come on. At this point, you might as well just have a number 1 on the up counter before we've even started, because there will be an up for Murray Gold coming at some point. The day I don't up Murray Gold, I think you should be worried. So anyway, the doctor's having his heroic moment, gonna save the day, and he's got like 4 minutes to do it. And then all of a sudden he goes back to the tomb where the starseed is, and where's Joy? And more importantly, where is the starseed? Because pretty sure it's supposed to stay inside that case, otherwise boom. Boom, see what I did there? But it turns out, Joy just decided, you know what, I'm gonna take that starseed right inside me. Stop it. And unfortunately, this does bring me to another down. Here's where I have a bit of an issue. And some people may have a different feel on this. Some people might be like, Ellie, stop it. You're just picking at this now. I totally get the message of Joy taking in the starseed and kind of finding her purpose in life after being kind of a bit of a loner. But I kind of feel like for me, the entire episode was building up how dangerous and how catastrophic this starseed could be, only for it to kind of build, and then, oh, but it's okay though, because Joy's taken it inside her, and all it takes is her to float away, and the day is saved. To me, it feels a little bit like maybe a bit of an easy ending. I don't know. Emotional, yes, definitely, and of course it does have that kind of Christmas spirit of all things having a happy ending, for sure. I don't know, but I'm just not 100% sure that I liked it. For me, I like my Doctor Who to have a little bit more tension, to have high stakes, to be very dramatic. Obviously, for a Christmas special, there's got to be an element of some sort of happy ending. But for me, Doctor Who needs to have a little bit more tension, a bit more drama, the higher stakes. And for me, I don't know that it quite hit the mark with this ending. If I'm honest, the beginning and the middle had me gripped. The ending lost me a little bit. And while we're just on this down, I do have to note that the actual moment where Joy starts to float away with the star looked a bit iffy. I mean, I feel like I could literally see the wires she was hanging from there in the sky while she was talking to the Doctor. Felt a little bit like school play with the kid who plays the star just floating. But of course, the episode does have a nice Christmassy ending. We have Anita being offered a job at the Time Hotel. It was nice to see her get a little bit of something at the end there rather than just not seeing her again. It's nice that the Doctor didn't forget about her, as often does happen in Doctor Who episodes. There's someone that the Doctor's helping and then we never see them again. But yes, a very Christmassy, feel-good ending, although I think we can all collectively agree that every single one of us rolled our eyes and went, yes, we get it, when Bethlehem was slammed across the screen. Yes, we got it. We understand. We get it. This does bring me to another up for the episode, and that is the Doctor's story in the entire episode. You know, essentially it was a post-companion depression, lonely angst theme that we've seen many times before in Doctor Who, but in this instance it was executed in a different way, and I found it very enjoyable. I very much enjoyed that we approached it from a different angle this time round, and I think it fit with Ncuti's kind of more boundful, optimistic Doctor. I think if this episode was 10 years ago, then the Doctor would definitely have gone kind of into his moping around like we saw Eleven do in The Snowmen when we saw the departure of Amy and Rory. But in this episode, we still see that the Doctor has that adventurous spark in his eye. You know, even though he's moping and he kind of forgot that Ruby wasn't there, he's straight away getting his jacket back on because he's sensed danger and he's straight back out there, as opposed to Eleven, who is like, no, phone me if there's trouble, but then maybe I'll help and maybe I won't, you know? In this, it kind of feels like instead the angst is kind of bottled up inside him, almost to the point where he can't even see it because he's cool and he's energetic and, you know, he's the rehabilitated Doctor. But then of course it does then get pointed out to him by himself, which again, I just love the wibbly wobbliness of this. You know, you have the whole two-chair metaphor, which again, I had noticed but hadn't noticed, but remember the TARDIS always had chairs. At least in the modern era, there were at least 2 chairs in the TARDIS. Where have the chairs gone? And actually now I think about it, yes, the TARDIS is so big and wide and open now, the new design. Why are there no chairs in there? So I think that was a really great metaphor. And then obviously we had the whole thing of Joy reminding the Doctor that he also stayed in that rubbish hotel room for a year. And, you know, the whole meaning behind that. So I think in terms of exploring what the Doctor has been like now that Ruby has gone, was really well done and a different approach to what we're used to, and I think that was really good. But of course, Ruby isn't entirely gone. We do have a very brief cameo from her there, and again, Murray Gold just knocking it out of the park with his little motif, the little motif of Ruby's theme as she appeared on the screen there, and we do know that she will be returning in season 2 to some degree, so she's not gone forever, but obviously the Doctor doesn't know that. We know that, but he doesn't know. So now what I want to do is our regular segment for any Moffat episode, and potentially our last, because for all we know, this is the last episode of Doctor Who that Stephen Moffat is going to write. I mean, I highly doubt it, but at this point in time, he hasn't written any more. And that is the quick fire of great Moffat lines, moments, scenes. The starseed will bloom and the flesh will rise. Don't be filthy. The entire honeymoon suite section, that was hilarious. That poor couple just holding the duvet up to their heads like, please go away. Evil Must logo, of course. And my personal favourite, still microwave though, well, you can't expect miracles. Personally, I hope he does come back. Moffat episodes tend to be my favourite episodes of Doctor Who. So I would be quite sad if he doesn't return. But of course, we didn't expect him to return for these previous 2 episodes, for Joy to the World or Boom. So never say never, I hope he'll return. If we're going to compare the 2 episodes that we have seen from Stephen Moffat in this new era, Boom, Joy to the World, I think I'd have to say of the 2, Boom probably is still my favourite. As I mentioned, each to their own, but for me, I prefer Doctor Who to have a little bit more tension, to be a little darker, have higher stakes, and for me, that's what Boom was compared to this episode that was much more light-hearted, a little bit more just kind of breezy. But as I say, I really hope this is not the end for Moffat in Doctor Who. I think he'll be back. Surely Russell has got him on a leash now. Now he's come back, he's never leaving. He has delivered some great episodes of Doctor Who. In fact, keep your eyes peeled because I have had the monumentous task of ranking all of Stephen Moffat's episodes recently. Have I completed it? Not quite, but do expect it to be coming very, very soon at some point in the new year. So do keep your eyes peeled for that. So I guess overall, this episode, Joy to the World, I think it's a fairly decent standalone Christmas episode. I wouldn't say it's necessarily Stephen Moffat's greatest Christmas offering, but it's by no means bad. But you know, when you've got things like A Christmas Carol to compare it to, it was nice to have an episode that wasn't weighed down by any baggage of season 1. This then makes it a good episode for those who might be watching it on Christmas Day who might not have watched all of season 1. You know, An episode on Christmas Day might attract viewers who might not usually watch Doctor Who. So it's nice to have a story that doesn't rely on you having watched everything to understand what's going on. So that's quite good. And Danny actually did watch this episode with someone who doesn't really watch Doctor Who, not really a fan of Doctor Who, and they really enjoyed the episode. So hopefully what this episode might do is pull in some more viewers for season 2, or might incline people to go back and watch maybe season 1 or previous episodes of Doctor Who based on what they saw in this Christmas special. I think it's important to remember as well that Doctor Who episodes do not all have to be the biggest, greatest thing ever made. Obviously you want them to be enjoyable, you don't want to sit there and go, well, that was rubbish. But I think in recent times this is a trap that maybe some fans have fallen into, of expecting every episode to be a blockbuster. Especially because since The Power of the Doctor, pretty much everything has been some sort of event. You know, you had The Power of the Doctor, which was a massive event. You then had the 60th, which was a massive event. Ncuti's debut episode in the, well, not debut episode, but his first full episode last Christmas with the Church on Ruby Road. Then you had this big build up to season 1 and it being a brand new thing for Disney, and everything's been such a thing that this is really the first episode we've had that has just been a standard Doctor Who episode. And so I feel like some people may have gone into that expecting something much grander and perhaps being disappointed because of the expectations they'd put on themselves going in based on what they'd seen previously. I definitely know that I was someone who on first viewing was like, not sure. But then when I watched it again, definitely felt like, okay, now that I've put all of my expectations aside and I've just watched it for what it is, it actually is more enjoyable than I thought the first time. I think it's a nice, chilled, funny, but also emotional at times episode, and it serves the purpose of just giving people a little bit of joy at Christmas. So on the whole, I'd maybe give it a 7 out of 10. And in terms of being Christmassy, I think I would also give it a 7 out of 10. We needed a bit more snow in there just to ramp up that Christmas spirit a little bit more. And don't worry, we have not forgotten about the season 2 trailer. A little bit of timey-wiminess has happened and we may or may not have been recording this episode in the past. So we haven't actually seen the trailer at this point of recording, but fear not, there will be a breakdown coming very, very soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Also, we will of course have our usual discussion coming as well, which will be coming very, very soon as well. And of course the Easter eggs too. So keep your eyes peeled in the next coming week or two, and all of this content will be coming. And then of course we'll be moving straight into the prep for season 2. So you don't want to go anywhere. We've got plenty more to come in the next year. So all that's left really for me to say is that I hope you've had a wonderful, wonderful Christmas and have a happy, happy new year. I've been Ellie for WhoCulture, and in the words of River Song herself, goodbye, sweeties.